before I let you go, I do want to make sure that we talk about this potential war crimes prosecution that you and some other lawyers have been pursuing regarding these 10 British. I'll just read part of the Guardian report on this. So it was a 240-page dossier submitted to Scotland Yard's War Crimes Unit, alleging targeted killing of civilians and aid workers, including by sniper fire, and indiscriminate attacks on civilian areas, including hospitals. And this report, which was prepared by yourself and others, as well as researchers, accuses these 10 British citizens of engaging in coordinated attacks on historic monuments, religious sites, forced transfer and displacement of civilians, etc. And the whole thing is laid out in this 240-page dossier. Lay this case out. Explain for people what this is. You're asking the British police essentially to open a war crimes investigation into these 10 British citizens because of their participation in what you've alleged are war crimes that they participated in Gaza.
Yes, that's right. I'm part of a team led by Paul Heron at the Public Interest Law Centre, a formidable solicitors firm in this country. And there's a team of 5 barristers, of whom I'm one. I don't want to take more credit than I'm due, but I have been involved in that project for more than a year. And some of the other barristers have done some formidable work, some legwork. I, of course, have seen the 10 names on that list. So I know the 10 suspects, and I've seen the evidence against them, and it is extensive. And so it's to be hoped that the British police, whatever we might think of them and whatever we think their priorities might be, will take a look at the extensive evidence that we've provided to them and take the view, yes, there's no basis for doubting, actually. And of course, there's no basis for doubting. This is my point about the emperor's new clothes. We have to pretend to think that Israel is something other than an apartheid state committing a genocide when even the ICJ is telling us that that's what's happened. So the ICC, again, we can criticize it, but at least it did hand down some arrest warrants, and that is something of a game changer, right? Yoav Gallant, and more to the point, the sitting Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, are fugitives of international law. And if they come to the UK, they will be arrested under an international warrant, right? And that tends to suggest that, I mean, who can say what the future holds? I'm not here to make prognostications or predictions, but it does seem as though Israel's certainly in a crisis, and it seems like it's a terminal crisis. Like, how can you have it that your prime minister needs to be arrested by his closest allies if he comes to the territory of their jurisdiction? It's like he has a problem, doesn't he? Israel has a deeper problem that might be terminal. We might be in this South Africa 94 moment, and if that's right, then these prosecutions is only sort of part of that picture. It's like, look, the Israeli military depends in no small part on having this diaspora, this racialized diaspora, right? The Basic Law 1950 says every Jew may return to Israel as an ole. And then Israeli society says, if you're a woman, 2 years, if you're a man, 3 years. Some exceptions, certainly if you're Palestinian, you don't have to serve for obvious reasons. But broadly, it's a racialized military, right? It's a military that almost defines itself literally in terms of the racial composition, right? It's an army that specifically selects Jews from around the diaspora to go and fight to advance US and NATO colonial interests. And that's why it's quite clearly, among other things, anti-Semitic, right? It's like, get Jews to go and fight this horrific ethno-national war of colonization and imperial control on what's clearly on behalf of US interests, right? And so that's the context. But broadly, the application to the Metropolitan Police is simple. It's that by various pieces of British legislation, international crimes have been domesticated. So they're also a crime under domestic British law. Seems as though these British citizens have gone to serve in the Israeli military, commit war crimes and crimes against humanity. And if they come back to this country, seems likely that they'll be getting a knock on the door from the British police saying, you need to be interviewed under caution, and I hope charged, because there's extremely persuasive evidence that they committed astonishing crimes against the people of Palestine.
What is, we only have a few minutes left with you, Frank, but what are the potential consequences if a prosecution is undertaken of them on war crimes charges in the UK? What potentially could happen in that event?
Well, they'll be charged, and then the normal criminal procedure will kick in. They'll be produced before a magistrate's court for a first appearance, in which they'll have to enter a plea and decide whether they're going to plead guilty to the crimes with which they're charged, or not guilty, and if they plead guilty, they'll be sentenced, and presumably, given the seriousness of the crimes, they'll receive some kind of custodial sentence. And if they plead not guilty, then of course there'll be a trial in which they will have an opportunity to defend themselves, and they will be represented by lawyers. And I assume that those lawyers won't be met with this sort of ad hominem that's been leveled at me, because the British establishment is extremely hypocritical. They'll go in front of juries and have to try and defend themselves. And if the jury thinks that the evidence against them is sufficiently persuasive to justify conviction, if they are sure beyond reasonable doubt, as the test is sometimes described, that the defendant in question is guilty, then that person will at that point be sentenced. And we can only hope, if the crimes that have been found proven against them are serious enough, that they will serve time in prison, and that will serve as an example to any British person thinking about going to serve in the colonial military of an apartheid state while it massacres Palestinian children, that maybe they might finally face some personal consequences.